Hello friends! Welcome back to another episode of r/IDOWorkHereLady, where it's not people mistaking customers as employees, it's mistaking actual employees as regular Joe Schmoes. In this episode, you'll hear about an employee who's mistaken as a resident and gets their car towed, a registered nurse being mistaken as a plumber, a professor who looks like a freshman, and we'll finish off with a wholesome story for you. I hope you stay for all the stories today, and subscribe for future videos. This story's titled, I Can Park Here. I work for a company whose offices are located in 3 adjacent residential apartments. We installed 2 doors in between to make one big sprawling office. There isn't much parking because it's a residential area, so employees are allowed to park in the no parking signed area. This keeps our neighbors happy that we don't use all the available spots, and maintenance can ask us to move if they need to get into one of the areas. The first 2 apartment doors have signs directing customers. The 3rd door is not marked because it houses the corporate officers that don't deal with customers. I work in that 3rd office. We also have an extremely casual dress code. I'm getting out of my car one morning and collecting my soda, lunch, etc. when I hear a voice behind me saying, "You can't park there!" I turn around to see a man leaning against the outside wall, smoking, and playing with his phone. I thought maybe he was a third-party vendor, waiting for maintenance to unlock the door I was blocking. I said, "Is maintenance on its way to let you in?" The man said, "What are you talking about? The sign clearly says no parking. You can't park there." I figured he was a new tenant in the building and continued walking into the building. I told him that I'm allowed to park there, that I work in the building, and it leaves more open spaces for residents, and then I said, "Have a nice day." The man steps in front of me and says, "Move your car or you will be towed." I said, "Excuse me, I work here and I'm allowed to park there. Please move out of my way." The man mumbles something along the lines of, "We'll see about that," but I shrug it off. He marches through the door ahead of me and starts walking to the offices. I follow him up the hallway, but at the 3rd door, unlock it, and walk into my office area. After lunch, the general manager came in and grabbed my keys to move my car. This happens all the time, so I didn't give it a second thought. That afternoon, the GM brings the new employee into my office to introduce him to me. I'm the financial controller and HR part of the management team. I stand up and hold my hand out to the man, whose face is completely drained of color. He stammers out nice to meet you, and hands me all of his new hire paperwork. I ask him to sit down, and the GM leaves him with me to get him set up on the system and explain his privileges, etc. The man says, "Excuse me, I need to step out for a moment to the restroom." I pointed him to the nearest restroom and said, "There's one right there." He then responded, I need to step outside." The GM comes back into my office and sits down with a big smile. I said, "I think he's a little embarrassed. He yelled at me for parking in the no parking spots this morning." The GM said to me, "Yeah, it's a little more than that. He came in an hour before we scheduled him this morning and blustered to the receptionist about you for half an hour before I went out and got him started filling paperwork just to shut him up." I explained the no parking policy to him in orientation and explained our towing procedures. I caught him at the break saying that he wouldn't tolerate illegal parking and would get this place in line now that he was here. We happened to walk by the parking stickers as we were showing him around. Sure enough, he took the bait and swiped one. I called the towing company and warned him that he might call, and to just play along but to not send anyone. As soon as he tagged your car, I moved it into an empty garage. About this time, the guy comes back in looking like he saw a ghost. The man said, "Ma'am, I don't know how to tell you this, but I had your car towed. I'm so sorry, I'll pay for the charges and I'll go get it right now." The GM said, "What do you mean? Who gave you the number for the towing company?" The man responded, "I got it off the parking stickers in the closet." "Who told you to sticker cars? This isn't even your area." The man, who seriously, I thought he was gonna melt into the floor, said, "I'm so sorry, I thought she lied about working here so she could park. She went into the apartment, not the office, and she wasn't in dress clothes. I don't know, I thought I could catch the truck before it came, but her car's gone." I was having a hard time keeping a straight face through this, and probably looked mad due to the strain of not laughing. The GM said, "Well, Maybe that'll teach you not to assume how things should be run. You were running your mouth all day about the things you were going to change, and you didn't listen when I explained our parking and towing policies. Now I'm gonna go get her car out of the garage, and you're gonna get set up on the system. Maybe tomorrow you'll come in with a better attitude." He looked relieved, and also miserable to be chastised on his first day. I got him set up, no hard feelings, and even had him laughing by the end. He showed up the next day with a soda for me, and a much better attitude. That's a pretty ballsy thing to do on your first day of work. That general manager seems like a pretty cool guy, and good on them for having a good sense of humor. I hope he fit in at that workplace. This one's titled, "Are you like a medical person?" Background: I'm a charge nurse in a medical unit. I'm a 32-year-old guy with a tidy ginger beard. I wear a striped gray and white tunic. The registered nurses wear a white tunic. The student nurses wear a white tunic that has the name of the college that they attend in big letters. All of us carry identification and lanyards that have our job titles on them. I'm walking around the unit, checking to see if everyone's okay and nobody's drowning in their patient caseload. The student nurse and registered nurse are looking after patient X, who had come in with delirium due to urinary tract infection. She had been convinced that there were intruders in her attic and had fallen trying to climb up to confront them. I see patient's son, Angry Man, AM, accosting student nurse with some forms in his hand, repeating, "Just sign them, just sign them." The registered nurse tells me that he's been asking everyone to sign these forms to get his mother sectioned under the Mental Health Act. I decide to rescue student nurse, who's on her first ever hospital rotation, and obviously is very uncomfortable. I said, "Hi sir, you're interested in getting your mother sectioned? Well, that's a psychiatrist or gerontologist decision, so none of the nurses here are going to be able to sign that for you. If you want, I can point you into the direction of the medical secretaries who can arrange an appointment for you." The man said, "Well, if they can't sign this, what about these instead?" And he brandished forms for long-term nursing home facilities. I responded, "Okay, so your mother would have to consent to long-term care, unless she's deemed to not have capacity to make decisions for herself. Again, this is a decision for the gerontologist or psychiatrist, so I can show you the way to the secretaries." The angry man then said loudly so the staff can hear, "Well, at least someone knows what they're talking about here. The nurses here are useless, and it took this guy to tell me what I need to know?" He turns to me and says, "So, are you like a medical person or?" Me, pointing to my various forms of identification, said, "Yeah, actually, I'm the nurse in charge of this unit, and I don't appreciate your comments about my staff, especially since you were browbeating a student nurse when I first saw you. It's probably best if you stopped raising your voice and went to speak to the secretaries." He apologized profusely and began to walk away, but I just needed to know. I said, "Just out of curiosity, who did you think I was when I first started talking to you?" And he responded, I don't know, like a plumber or something?" Cue the laughter from registered nurse and student nurse. It's turned into a running joke that when there's a complaint or an issue, the nurses in the unit tell me, "We need the plumber in room 2. How the heck do you confuse a registered nurse for a plumber? He had all of his identification showing. Oh, some people. This one's titled, "But I was supposed to meet the professor here." One time on my commute to grad school, I found a phone on the side of the road. I flipped through it to text whoever's mom that the phone had been found. She gave her thanks, and we arranged a time for her to pick it up on behalf of her teenage daughter. The best time for us both was when I was instructing a lab, and I told her just to ask for the instructor when she arrived in the classroom. I'm a 5'1" blonde who had been asked a couple of times throughout grad school if I was a freshman, so I shouldn't have been surprised when the lady stepped into the classroom while I was helping a student at their desk, wandered around briefly without talking to anyone, then left while mumbling, "Huh, well I was supposed to meet a professor here." I had to go chase her down in the parking lot after one of my students who overheard the lady's exasperation flagged me down. This story's titled, "How do you like the school?" This happened in the fall. I was sitting on the stage of my school, which happens to be in a gym, watching the high school basketball team practice. The middle school team was just leaving, and I was saying goodbye to everyone. when the mom of a 14-year-old came up to me and started talking because I was talking to her daughter. She asked if I was new, to which I nodded, and I didn't get another chance to speak before she was talking again. She told me about how she had just finished her last chemo and how freeing it was, talking about her short hair and how she couldn't wait for it to reach the same length as mine, which was just above my shoulders. The high school coaches call the kids over to talk about the game plan for the following day, and she asks what grade I'm in. Cue the laughter from the students who are around us. That's the point. I inform her that I'm a teacher. I teach high school English, which includes her freshman daughter. It was funny and we both laughed. She's a nice woman, and I've had several other positive chats with her. It just seemed funny and appropriate to post here. It's very rare to find a wholesome story like this one in the midst of all the angry posts out there. I thought I'd end it off with a wholesome story for you. I hope you enjoyed it and enjoyed this episode. If you aren't subscribed, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next episode. See you guys in the next one.